Welcome to the Practice Podcast, conversations probing the nature of practice. I'm your host, Dave Fearon. This is a conversation with Mel Hubner. She just sent me a message on LinkedIn thanking me for the conversation, and I responded. I found it to be very enriching. And that's how I want to introduce this conversation for this episode with Mel. It suggests that there's a lot more that we can look forward to than just receiving money. Money is nice, particularly with inflation. But the opportunity to meet someone, to get acquainted, and find out what makes her, in this case, tick, is a way of finding out makes me tick. And a lot of ticking went on. And you'll learn more about the B-Corp. You'll learn more about how someone is governing the first 5 years of her post-college career. It's a lot to be learned, a lot of riches there to extract from this conversation. So open up your mental purses and start collecting the reward with Mel Hubner. Well, you've probably all heard of networking. It's sort of the buzzword. It's been a buzzword for quite a long while. But when you're living networking, as I have to, in order to be connected to the world from here in northwestern Connecticut, sitting in my lonely little home office, you just connect with people you know, and they will connect you with people they know. And pretty soon you're already almost to Kevin Bacon. 6 degrees of separation. Kevin Bacon, by the way, Mel, lives about 20 miles from here. So
wow.
I'm pretty close to Kevin Bacon, only he doesn't know that I live here. But the connection to you, initially, we go back up the chain to Maria Kingery.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, struggling with short-term memory here. Who was delightful. It was a great conversation. Episode, I think, 160, 61, something like that. It was a lot of fun to meet her and to hear the work that the two companies that you work with her are doing. And I'll give you that moment to talk about what that is in a second. Then I heard about Maria through Lizzie Freudman, who's does marketing based in New Orleans, who does marketing for my friend Tom Casey, who I used to serve on the Duran Institute board with. So it's great to see how these connections all work. Do you remember, Mel, when you heard about the possibility of Maria doing this podcast?
I do. Yes, it was through Liz on our Slack channel with the B-Corp women. And she was like, I got the chance to talk to Dave, and it was like a wonderful experience. Anyone that would like to share your story, reach out and we can talk. And so I actually reached out for Maria to join you. And here I am now.
Here you are. And now you can tell the folks it's Mel Hubner.
Hubner. Yes.
Hubner.
That's
and
right.
Your title?
My title is officially Impact Associate. And I work, like you said, with Maria's two companies, 360 Impact and Southern Energy Management here in North Carolina.
Okay. And it seems that impact is a big word. It's in your title. And you said that there's maybe some shifting of your branding to even make more impact with the word and the active impact. Why don't we talk a little bit about that first? Because that's your, in quotes, thing right now.
Right. That's right. So we're shifting from 360 Rocks to 360 Impact. And that is Maria's consulting company. We work with impact-driven leaders to grow their impact while growing their team and boosting their profits and creating strategies to align all their people, their profit, and their planet efforts or impact. So we're changing the name to make sure that it aligns more with what we're doing.
And that impact goes out to having a positive impact on the environment, on the globe, if you will. And also, for many of the businesses that are in the B-Corp community, the impact can be very targeted. So
Absolutely.
Part of what I remember Maria said that you do in the consulting side is help these companies work up the applications and so forth, but then also the strategic part is very important. And is that sort of where your expertise comes in, particularly with that targeting?
So with our consulting clients, yes, we say that we directly impact their team through strategy work and leadership development and team and culture development. But then, of course, we're amplifying their impact because they are also B corporations typically. And so the better they do internally, right, the more impact they are also doing. So we say we have direct and indirect impact. In terms of what I do, I help Maria create that impact in the company. So I'm right next to her doing a lot of the background work. So she is fully prepared to come into the session and really work with our clients. And so that's the impact that I help her create through the consulting company. But through the solar energy, green building company, Southern Energy Management, I work directly with our internal B Corp team. So that we really focus on team development, personal and professional, volunteerism, community partnerships, and those are the three main areas that we focus on, as well as the strategizing to increase our score in the B impact assessment.
Wow.
Yeah.
And are you ever bored?
Absolutely not. I'm always working with different things. When you mention about this whole podcast being about practice and continue learning and growing, that's how I feel exactly every single day in my role. No other day is the same. And I'm constantly looking for, okay, I need to learn this to accomplish this. What do I need to do next? And it's just always about practice here as well.
Yeah, and I think the key is that I've got to learn this in order to move ahead. I've got to learn that in order to move ahead. Now, back when you were a student, I believe at the University of North Carolina?
Charlotte, yes.
In Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
The learning was relatively governed by the faculty person running the course, and you were sort of learning in a way that you were directed to learn to show that you acquired some knowledge. I'm sort of stereotyping a very complex system, but once you broke free of that, graduated, and congratulations, you're out now in the world. You have to find some place to start working, and there's a good chance that no matter what that is, there's a learning curve to start with. And then after that, depending on your setting, the context of the work, the curve never bends. And it sounds to me, by combining these two companies, your responsibility in both companies, the green energy consulting work and the construction support that company gives, plus helping develop the high impact B Corps. There's a tremendous amount to learn. But let's go back to when you finished, you graduated. Now, you probably didn't know that this company was on your horizon, did you?
No, I did not. No, I started so I went to school for public health and biostatistics. Yeah. So I wanted to do research for nonprofits. That's what I wanted to do. And then, senior year of college, I came across the B Corp movement through a freelancing market research work that I was doing during the summer. I was the transcriber for a focus group for market research, and they interviewed a bunch of different and diverse focus groups. And one of them was a younger professional in Charlotte, North Carolina, who were really focused on like social and environmental impact. And during their conversations, they were mentioning, like we like companies that are going beyond just profits. We like companies that are doing like good with their marketing strategy, right? So like buy one, they donate one, that kind of stuff. And that conversation, as I was just typing things up in the background, I was like, I never heard of anything like that. But then I started realizing, wow, there are some companies out there that are going beyond just selling most products, and just getting everyone needs to hit their 40 hours a week. And, all that is just, I could see that things are changing. So I remember going home and trying to research.
It seemed that discovering in this focus group, this sort of business that's beyond business, it must have also fitted into your interest in nonprofits, even though these are for-profit businesses in many cases, most cases. There was some sentiment there. There's some values in your makeup that made you want to be in public health, but also looking at the nonprofit world. So that must have been an interesting moment where you said, hey, wait a minute, you can be a for-profit business, but do some good in the world and maybe even keep people healthy. So
that's exactly it. Because as I was studying in school, nonprofits are doing amazing work, but they're often limited by grants and government and donors, right? And yes, there is a movement that nonprofits are now exploring creative ways to bring in money, right? Not just solely focus on grants and fundraising, but also creating their own revenue stream, right? That they can like sell a product or service and invest the money back in the nonprofits. But at the time I was, okay, yes, there's great work to be done here, but nonprofits will not be able to get this accomplished by themselves, right? And so when it was like a light bulb moment, I remember going on YouTube and I watched the little B-Corp intro video. And I was like, this is awesome. But it was senior year of college, and I'm someone that always wants to plan ahead and like really have to have a clear like structure to my plan of what I'm going to accomplish. So I remember thinking, I want to be a part of this. But for the past 4 years, I've been thinking about going into the nonprofit route. And to me, it was too much to switch things up at that time.
Oh, no.
And so I graduated and I went ahead and got a great job in Raleigh, North Carolina, working for a food bank.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. And so I worked for the community health education program. It got my foot in the door, to like working for a nonprofit. So I stayed there for about 2 years, and it was a great experience. But, I got situated with the professional world, right? It was my first job. I remember my first month there. I was just like, okay, working, I guess it's answering calls, answering emails, and attending meetings. I guess that's what work's like.
Oh, God, for the rest of my life. It pretty well boiled it down to what a lot of people do day in and day out. Yeah. That's
all I did for the first month, But yeah, so then I did that for about 2 years, and it was a great experience. Lots of learning curves, but most importantly, really just being in a professional setting, and developing very skills, like transferable skills, right? Yes. And then I felt ready to take a step forward in my career, and I was like, okay, now it's time to join the B-Corp movement.
So you hadn't lost that little bee in your bonnet then?
I did not. No, I definitely didn't. I just needed to follow my plan for a little bit. That's what was going through my head. But I definitely still followed a bunch of B Corps on social media, read a few books about it. And so I knew that the moment that I was ready to look for a new job, that was the step that I was going to make. And I felt a little bit more prepared too, that I was more aware of the movement and what it really meant to be a B Corp. B Lab has a really cool website called B Work. And B Work, any B corporation can post their open positions over there. And so for a few weeks, I just kept checking that website, just seeing what was out there in my area. And didn't want
to move across country or do anything radical like that?
No, I didn't do it. No, I didn't want to do that at the time. I was building my community here in Raleigh. Community is really important to me, and I felt like it took a little while to get settled here, and I didn't want to move again, coming from Charlotte to Raleigh and then 2 years later moving again. So I did come across my position and applied and got along really well with Maria and the whole team. And then it was honestly a dream come true, really, because not only was I working for a B Corp, but I was fully involved in the B Corp efforts that they had in the company. It wasn't like I was just doing, operations or project management for the part of the company. My role, was specifically to be involved in their B Corp efforts. So it was really cool.
That's about 2 years you've been there now?
Yes. So I started working there a week before everything shut down because of the COVID pandemic. Yes.
Oh, my Lord. Now, did you have to switch to remote?
We did. Yes. So I went into the office. It was quite funny. Maria at the time wasn't really going into the Southern Energy Management's office because she was traveling a lot for her clients. And so that first week that I was working there, we set up our office, we decorated, we went shopping. It was so beautiful.
It's going to be great being here. And then
yes. And then boom, I remember that Friday, we were like, okay, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but just keep an eye on your phone. If anything happens, you get an alert. And then that's Sunday or Saturday. It was like, okay, we're shutting down the office and going to remote. Come get any equipment that you might need from the office. And switching to remote.
Those are horrible memories for all of us. But the good part is we can remember it because a lot of people didn't make it, including my friend Peter. It's just, it was a cataclysmic change for all of us personally and socially and every other way you can think of. But it also puts you in a position where you're starting a new job and you're going to be doing it largely like we are right now with, camera and phone. And how was that adjustment for you? How did that work out? Yeah,
it was a very interesting period, for all of us, like you said, in many different aspects. I think the transition of working remote in my position, I was more bummed about not being able to meet the people that I was going to work with, and really have that sense of like team, and for many factors. I remember everyone was there were so many unanswered questions, right? And so everyone in the company were like, okay, what's going to happen next? That I felt like as a new team member, I didn't want to bother anyone because they were dealing with so much already, and they were like, okay, Mel, like, this is what you have to get done, train yourself kind of thing in some way. There you go.
Train yourself.
Yeah. And then let me know if you need some help, and that was kind of with the Southern Energies side of things. But then with Maria and just the consulting company, of course, her clients and our clients now, right? They needed a lot of help, right?
Yeah. They had to shift to virtual as well in order to survive. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So sessions got transferred to virtual. All of our clients were like, I don't know what's going to happen, right? Like the whole world. And so a lot of people are reaching out to Maria for some guidance. And while she had her first kind of like real team member by her side, so it was definitely a transition, but it was okay. I felt supported, which was important. It was overall a positive experience considering everything. But I have to say, Dave, for a little moment, because I left my food bank job about 2 weeks before all that happened, I had a little bit of guilt, that I left an organization when they probably most needed me.
Yeah, when the food scarcity became even more compelling. But that's good to know. You've got a conscience. They do come in handy a lot, and I think that's an important realization for you. Did you think you might say at that point, well, Maria, since we haven't really bonded yet, I think I'll go back to my old job?
No, I didn't. I was very, very happy with what I had gotten myself into in terms of it really felt like an accomplishment in getting this position,
Absolutely. No question about it. A lot of thought and research, and there it was. And clearly she needed you. So it wasn't like you're just going to sit around and wait till the, shutdown's over, which would have been silly because it wasn't over for months. But basically, there you were. And you did make yourself work out how you're going to pull this off. And it seems probably now we're looking back on it like a little bit of a bad dream in some ways and a good thing in others, but you've now reached a point where I think you guys are back from being remote. Are you back face to face?
Yeah. So right now we're hybrid, really.
Okay. Yeah. Which is where many, many companies are right now. Yeah.
Right. And it works. I think everyone has discovered pros and cons of being in person and being virtual. And so I think now it's really, we have been pretty flexible in terms of like, if this works best for you, keep it. If you want to change it, change it. Whatever works for like maximize your performance and your well-being, do that. And so it's been good. Yeah. Cool.
Now let's go to the statistical side of your background for a moment, the measuring, the counting up, and it's not impact in some ways until you can really be empirical about it. You can say, okay, this is what we did, and here's how we can show you. Here's the evidence. So I'm leaping into that part of your work because remote, hybrid, a lot of people are saying, yeah, but the claim is that performance is as good or better, but how do you really know? So I suspect within both sides of Maria's business, measuring actual outcome results is very important. And now the bigger question is, can we be as impactful working in this hybrid way as we thought we would be when we could be face to face? So.
Right.
I don't know if there's a question in there, but you find a question and answer it. How's that?
Yeah, that is a great a question in general. I was just talking about this a couple of days ago that yes, measuring key metrics, KPIs or scoreboards and scorecards, whatever you want to call it, right? Mm-hmm. It's more important than ever. I think companies, even before the pandemic, were starting to move towards a more performance-based instead of hours worked, right? Or that kind of stuff. And I think it became even more clear how those key metrics are super important to measure performance during the pandemic, when you're not really seeing when people are working or what they're doing with their in the middle of their days, right? And I think that really has brought a lot of positives too, you know? I mean, if you know that you do your best work at 10 o'clock at night and you're going to hit your numbers because they have been thought out metrics, you know, that really represent what you're supposed to be doing and what you're accountable for, there is no reason to not being able to work at 10 o'clock. And so, and I think in terms of impact, there are tons of bigger tools out there that really measure your impact as a company, like the B-Impact assessment. You know, I do like to point out that I recently learned that we have about a little over 5,000 B corporations around the globe. We just hit the 5,000 number recently, which is really exciting.
Very exciting.
Yeah, and then I learned that there are I believe over 200,000 users of the B-Impact assessment.
So even if they're not B Corps, there's a lot of people who say, hey, we need some way to measure, we need a yardstick, and here's a good one.
Exactly. And I mean, the assessment is free for everybody. Anyone can go and create an account and start the assessment. If you submit it, that means that you are trying to become a certified B corporation, but you don't need to submit it ever. And the way that the assessment is listed, most questions are kind of like a gradual, let's say, progress on a certain item. You know, it's usually, and so that gives you ideas of what you can be doing to improve your impact in all those categories, you know.
What would be an example of on the employee side of an impact on employee well-being, employee growth and development?
Yeah, so let's say I believe there's a question about feedback and conversations between team lead and direct reports, right? And so that's key. That is key to team development and team member development, right? And to make sure that you're aligned with expectations of both of your leadership and your role. And it's typically supposed to be a conversation that you can also, the team member can also give feedback to their team lead. And
exactly.
Yeah. So I see it as a really key component of a company to boost team engagement and development. The question would be, do you have a process around feedback? And don't quote me on those questions, but I know that there's.
I got it. I get it.
And it's be like, no, we don't have a process in place. Or yes, we have annual performance reviews.
Oh yeah, I thought that was starting to come up in my head. Like, okay.
Yeah. But then 2, we have quarterly conversation with team lead, direct report, and then 3 is like we have 360 feedback review where like your colleagues will also give feedback to you, you know. And so it slowly gives you ideas of how you can improve your impact in certain ways, you know. So that's why I really find the BIA an awesome tool for any company.
The podcast listener may, even if they've listened to Maria, not know, and Lizzie for that matter, not really yet quite get the B. What does B stand for? And because I know there's a lot that they can look at, and they can go to the same YouTube that you looked at. But what's the B in B Corp?
So the B in B Corp is benefit.
Okay.
So that's what it actually translates to. And it's the benefit of companies beyond what do they say? It's beyond just like the profits and business that we typically see it. It's in terms of 5 categories, really: governance of a company, community, environment, workers, and customers. And so it really takes into account all of the different categories of sustainability per se. And the way the BIA, which is the B-Impact assessment, right, to become a B Corp works, is that you don't necessarily have to be great at all of these categories, but you have to meet a standard in all of them and excel at 1 or 2 to become certified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my history, I had a wonderful relationship with a businesswoman whose company that she founded mattered so much to her that she started a nonprofit called Reset Connecticut Social Enterprise Trust, so that we could move ahead and help her become the first benefit corporation in Connecticut, which is much different in the sense that it was a piece of legislation that creates a whole category of business with very firm guidelines as to how that business can be recognized and sold and all the rest. So I lived through for about 12 years the whole B experience, but in order to understand benefit corporation, of course, we were looking into this now 5,000 member, but previously maybe back then, maybe a few hundred. That's when I first recall as a board member, someone said, "Hey, take a look at this." So you're still in a very young future for business. And when I taught for all those years in business schools, I really wanted my students to see that the leap past the first 5 years, which you're pretty much done now since you graduated, is a very important leap. And if you jump too short just to settle into comfort and routine and what you know and familiarity, you're sitting on the first lily pad and that's it. But if you leave too far and you don't do much learning because you have a really sort of bang up opportunity to jump way out there, but then you find out you're way over your head and you haven't done the homework, that's awfully. So I sort of said, figure that first 5-year leap so that when you land, first you can still sleep at night because you haven't compromised your values and you understand you've tested your beliefs, and by and large, you're okay with them. So that's a big part of it. But the next part is recognize that around the 5th year, which is sort of where you are, and this is getting to the end of our time for this recording, is the next 5 years. That's like the next 5 years. What do you think the work you're doing right now, the relationships you have, the affiliations, the national view that you're gaining in the B-Corp world, what do you think that's going to do for you 5 years from now?
Wow. Great question. I've been thinking a lot about a year from now. Not as much as time, but
we all want to be alive 5 years from now. We'll start with that.
Absolutely. Healthy and alive. But when I do think about the 1 year, and I'm assuming also it will be similar if I think about my 5-year plan, I'm just so amazed by the community of B corporations and the people that I get to meet every day through my role today. We started this podcast talking about networking, right?
Right, exactly.
And that's what I've been doing now, and it's been amazing to learn because I knew I wanted to work for a B Corp. I know my transferable skills, but beyond that, I was just like, I'm just happy to be part of the movement. I'm just happy to say, hey, I work for an awesome company that is doing great things in the world. And I made it. And now I'm like, okay, so what does Mel want now, right? Like what do I want to specialize? What is the impact that I can do for these companies, right? Within these companies.
Yes.
And honestly, Dave, I'm figuring it out still through networking. I am talking to so many people and learning about their careers and their paths, right? And the decisions that they made, and being really humble about, yes, I have learned so much about the B Corp world so far, but there's so much that I don't know still.
Oh, yeah.
And there's so many different avenues that I can go. I know we talked about measuring and metrics and statistics, and my passion really for the whole research thing, I'm discovering the whole ESG measurement, right? So where any company can be measuring their environmental, social, and governance factors, and how investors are looking into those factors.
Yes. Now you're moving up onto the edge of the next big set of lily pads, because that you're right onto that trend. And I think after we go through this catharsis of Wall Street right now, and also seeing how the CEOs of the largest companies are being pushed very hard by your generation to be much more authentically responsible for those aspects, that it would be a very interesting time to get some more muscle in that area of determining actually progress in those areas. But I love what you said, and I put the 5-year mark out there because you said earlier that you're a planner, and but you're still at a point where Peter and I would say, in terms of your practice, you have found a context that's just right for you, the B-Corp context, and it's allowing you to learn and grow. And you're developing sets of skills which tend to be combined in any kind of practice, including my lousy golf game, which I'd like to improve. My point, though, is that there's something you probably noticed in Maria when you went to work for her, that it sort of says, I am Mel Hubner. I am this person in the world. And if someone hands you a trophy for that, you say, yes, I deserve that. You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any doubt in your sense, who you are. I think you come across very clearly about that. But you see yourself about 5 years from now where you're saying, yes, I am. Bink, bink, bink. You still haven't fitted into bink, bink, bink in the last 3 minutes that I've been talking.
I wish I did. But, I just want to be someone. I think I'm getting to know so many people who are willing to share about their life and their experience, and willing to guide me, based on what they went through, right? But not really telling me what to do, but giving me options and opening certain doors. It's really been an amazing, amazing experience. And this is really present for me right now, because we're starting to do all these in-person events again. Right? And so I spent almost 2 years just meeting with people through Zoom, or seeing a face here on like virtual conferences. And now I'm out there almost every week getting to see these people in person. And I'm just like, tell me about you, and just really doing the networking. And I'm amazed by how people are just so nice and so welcoming and so open. And so 5 years from now, I hope that I get to do that for someone else that might be in my position today, and continue doing it. And it doesn't mean that I can't play that role for someone else right now, right? But I just do think that, again, I am like focusing on learning now in developing myself, so I am better equipped and confident, really, that I can help others and add value in that way. So,
I think that's great. And my instinct is the tell me about you motive is genuine. And 5 years from now, you will have collected hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of anecdotal information about the people in the B-Corp world. You could be writing about them. You could be podcasting about them. You could be XXX, because we don't know what the next media is going to be, but there will be another media. And people crave I believe we crave stories about fellow humans who are doing good in the world. We got plenty of the other stuff, the ick. But if I saw Mel Hubner's coming up on screen with another offering, it'll be like, oh yeah, I want to hear from her, because people know that she listens to them. People know that she has depth, that you're not just listening for the superficial. And particularly, they know that she wants to help us give evidence to what impact we're having in the world. So when she listens all the way to, well, how do you know that that's actually happening? So your story about the people who you're meeting along the way, to the extent that you're able to share those and they're willing to have you share them, there's going to be some richness there, Mel.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's very exciting. And you can say it way better than I can. I'm listening to you and I'm like, yes, that's it.
Yeah, I want that. I want what Dave just said.
That's what I'm going to be.
That's what I'm going to be. And I got to get it to be 84 in 5 years so I can check back with you.
There you go. There you go.
That'll be my goal. But it's been a lot of fun, and I'm delighted that we had the reason in the network to come together and to meet. And this isn't the last time you can reach out to me, or I hope to reach out to you. If anything else, it's really adding another charm to my charm bracelet, if you will, called the podcast series. And it's very unique. And I'm sure that Maria, when she hears it, will say, hey, I'm going to give you a major raise for what you did on Dave Fearon's podcast.
Manifesting here. I like it.
So thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Yes. Thank you for inviting me, Dave. It's been wonderful. And yes, I'm sure this is not going to be the last time that we'll connect. And I'm really looking forward to reading your book. So thank you.
Practice is a way of being. Plug. Practice is a way of being. Peter Vale and David Fearon, just coming out.
Lovely. Yeah. Looking forward to it. And thanks for spending your time with me.
If you'd like to hear more, listen in on Spotify, Automatic, and Apple Podcasts, or go to inactionresearch.com/podcast-page. And if you'd like to learn more about social inaction and the nature of practice, head over to inactionresearch.com for more information. Thank you for supporting this show. We look forward to hearing from you soon.